Do you ever come across something, a song, a photo, a memory, and instead of feeling comforted, you feel this sudden ache, like something tightens in your chest, like you've been reminded of something you didn't realise you were still missing? That's nostalgia, and for some of us, it doesn't feel warm or sweet at all. It feels painful, like really painful. And I want to talk about that today, why nostalgia can hurt so damn much, and why that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Because honestly, I've spent a lot of time wondering if it's just me that feels this way, and I don't think it is. We usually talk about nostalgia as this nice thing, a comforting thing, something cosy and familiar. But for some people, myself included, nostalgia doesn't land like that. It brings sadness, grief, a longing for something that you know you can't go back to. Recently, I've found myself thinking about this a lot again, and that's not something that I'm saying because it sounds good in a video. I really have. What actually brought this up for me again recently was watching the finale of Stranger Things on Netflix. Now, I won't spoil anything for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, don't worry. But after all the chaos, after Millie Bobby Brown and co had fought an interdimensional war yet again and left several children probably traumatised for life, to be honest, there's a scene at the end. Mike puts away a game in his basement and then walks up the basement stairs and pauses. He looks back at his younger sister and her friends sitting there playing. There's no dialogue, no explanation, but it's clear what's happening. He's realising that a chapter of his life is over. He's watching younger kids step into a version of life that used to be his. And nothing dramatic happens, no big speech, just this quiet understanding that childhood is gone. That moment really stuck with me, not because of the show itself, but because of how familiar that feeling was. And it sent me down a bit of a spiral, to be honest. It made me think about my childhood, about friends I no longer have, about things I used to enjoy, but mostly about how much less stressed and more carefree I used to feel. I think a lot of us don't even realise how often we're being invited to look back. Nostalgia is big business. So much of what we watch, listen to and consume now is deliberately designed to pull us backwards. Old TV shows rebooted, classic films remade, bands reforming decades later, fashion cycling back through old trends, even games, toys and aesthetics coming back around. And it's not really because we've run out of new ideas. It's because people are chasing a feeling, a time when life felt simpler, more exciting, more open, less heavy. Nostalgia sells because it promises something familiar in a world that feels uncertain. It offers comfort, or at least the memory of comfort. But the problem is, when you keep reaching for the past to soothe the present, you start reminding yourself of what's gone. And every time we do, we're quietly measuring our current lives against a version of the world and ourselves that no longer exists. And instead of feeling warm, you can start to feel quite sad. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about nostalgia is that it's just about missing the past. But really, it's about loss. Not just of places or moments, but of versions of ourselves. The version of you who didn't know what was coming. The version of you who had more time, more imagination, fewer worries. The version of life where certain things still felt open-ended. When nostalgia shows up, it doesn't just say, remember this? It says, this is gone now. And that's why it can feel so heavy. There's a reason nostalgia can feel like grief, because in a way, it is. You're grieving a time you didn't know you were living in, a version of life that ended quietly, moments you didn't realise were limited. And unlike other forms of grief, this one doesn't come with permission. No one really tells you it's okay to be sad about growing up, or about time moving on, or about life changing in ways that you didn't choose. So when nostalgia hurts, people often think, why am I reacting like this? Nothing bad's actually happened. But something did happen. The time passed. Another reason nostalgia hurts is because there's nowhere to put the feeling. You can't go back. You can't recreate it. And you can't really explain it. You're longing for something that doesn't exist anymore. And that kind of longing has no resolution. It's not like missing a person you can call or a place you can visit. It's missing a time and a way of being. That's why nostalgia can feel so unsettling. It wakes up a desire that just can't be fulfilled. I think nostalgia also forces us to confront something we usually try not to think about too much. Time moving forward. When you feel nostalgic, you're not just looking back. You're noticing the distance between then and now. You're realising how much has changed, how fast it all moved and how certain phases only happen once, and that can be scary. Not because the present is terrible necessarily, but because it reminds us that everything is temporary. Something that I've realised through my own feelings here is that nostalgia doesn't always hit randomly. It tends to show up more during transitions in your life, at the end of years, when you feel stuck, when life feels uncertain, and when you're questioning where exactly you're heading. It often appears when you're already feeling a bit ungrounded in some way. And this theory totally lines up for me. I've felt this strongly lately. It's the end of a year, and I've been feeling quite stuck in my job. And in these moments, looking back can feel safer than looking forward. This part really matters. If nostalgia hurts for you, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're stuck in the past, and it definitely doesn't mean that you're failing to live in the present. It usually means that you cared deeply, that you were present in those moments, and that those experiences mattered to you. People who don't feel anything don't feel nostalgic. Painful nostalgia is often the cost of having loved a chapter of your life fully. One thing that I am trying to do is not push nostalgia away, but also not let it swallow me. Instead of asking, why do I feel like this? Try asking, what is this reminding me of? Sometimes it's reminding you that you miss connection, or you miss simplicity, or you miss feeling open and curious, or you miss who you were before certain pressures arrived. And that doesn't mean that you want to go backwards. It means that there might be something there that's worth carrying forward. There's one more thing that I think is really important to acknowledge. Nostalgia, if we're not careful with it, it can quietly pull us under. If you keep replaying old moments, old chapters, old versions of yourself, it can start to make the present feel smaller in comparison, like something that you're just passing through rather than actually properly living in. And the sad part is, when we stay too focused on what's gone, we can miss what's happening right now. We become so busy mourning old moments that we forget to fully inhabit the current ones that we have. And the irony is, these moments won't last either. One day, whether we realise it or not, this version of life, this age, this time, these ordinary days will become the thing that we feel nostalgic for. The conversations, the routines, the people around us right now. And if we're not present for them, we risk looking back one day and thinking, I didn't realise I was in something that I'd miss. That's when nostalgia stops being reflective and starts quietly stealing time from us. I don't think the answer is to get rid of nostalgia. I don't think that's realistic or even healthy. Those memories mattered. Those chapters mattered. And the fact that they still affect you says something good about the life you've lived. But I do think it helps to change how we relate to nostalgia, rather than letting it take the lead. Sometimes it's enough just to notice it, to recognise the feeling without chasing it, to say, that was important, without needing to go back and live there. It can also help to remember that what you're missing isn't just the past itself, it's the way that you felt in those moments. More connected, more present, more open. And those feelings aren't locked in the past. They're harder to reach sometimes, but they're still available in different forms. And maybe the most important thing is this. Feeling nostalgic doesn't mean that the present is empty. It just means that you've experienced moments that were meaningful enough to miss. The goal isn't to stop remembering, it's to make sure remembering doesn't stop you from living. If nostalgia hits you in a similar way, I'd really love to know what kind of feelings that brings up for you, because I'm just trying to figure this out as I go, like everybody else. If you want to stick around for the next video, I'd love to have you, but until then, please take care of yourself.